Patreon. Let's adjust the camera. There we go. That looks kind of good. Other than the fact that my ugly mug is on it. Mr. Kurt Klein says, I've always had an interest in homesteading, but I have no idea where to start. ... Which I'm guessing the ... means, please help me, Bear. Where would I start if one was to consider homesteading? To which I have some thoughts. I wouldn't per se call them an answer, but they are thoughts. And there are many like them, but these ones are mine. Now, in no particular order, many people like the idea of homesteading far more than they like homesteading. There is definitely an uptick, says me, in people returning to the land, people getting off grid. There is an increase in popularity of decentralized renewable energy production, gardening, tiny house, neo-pioneer lifestyle, self-sufficiency, not even survivalism, right? Because survivalism conjures up images of the original Rambo film, running around in the woods with a large knife with a compass in the handle and a cravat tied around your forehead to keep the rain in the Pacific Northwest out of your eyes so that you can finally kill that sheriff who should have never arrested you just for trying to hitch a ride in the first place, right? So it's not that. It's much more Mother Earth news-ish than that, from what I'm seeing, my perception, my experience. So there's a lot of interest in people doing these things, and then the reality sets in. It's like, oh, you like sleeping in? Not anymore, you don't. You got roosters? Don't sleep in anymore. You like the nice, quiet, peaceful country? It's not quiet and peaceful. My sheep talk to me all day. You guys hear my chickens, right? And the guinea hens, oh, the guinea hens. Oh boy. They really need some lead poisoning. Really. So, and it's hard work. It's cold in the winter. It's hot in the summer. You have to go out and at a minimum, do your chores. And doing your chores just keeps you plateaued. And we all know that if you're plateaued, you're actually backsliding, right? There's only forward progress or you're backsliding. That's it. So there's 101 projects every day that need to get done. Some of them are major, some of them are minor. And in the doing of one project, you create 5 to 10 more projects. That's how it works. There is no finish line. There's only benchmarks. And so in the doing of, I think some people get turned off to homesteading. But some people get turned on to homesteading. And so I would encourage you to find somebody who is living this way. And there are places. I can think of several off the top of my head where you can go and spend a weekend, a month, a year living with these people and homesteading. You should do it. I think it's really wise to spend a weekend or a week or a month homesteading every day, weeding the garden. The garden sounds elegant until you realize a big portion of the garden is you on your hands and knees with dirt under your fingernails, toiling under the sun, pulling out stupid weeds that just keep wanting to come back and back and back. And there's a romance to lovingly caring for your tomato plants until you realize that if you don't lovingly care for them, they will shrivel up and die, and all of your efforts will have been in vain. And there are plants, and there are days where it's like, screw it. I'm okay with letting that one die. I'm just done. I shot a rooster at 1.5 yards the other day with a 9mm hollow point because it was time. I was done. that one had to go. We have, I don't even know how many, too many roosters right now, between 6 and 8. And there's a jihad coming, if not already, depending on when this posts versus whatever else happens. But point being, like, you're gonna reach your limit at some point. Your capacity to care, you will at some point find yourself beyond it. So maybe find yourself beyond your capacity to care. Find your limit on somebody else's time, right? Before you jump head first into this kind of lifestyle and realize that, hey, this is not for me. Or maybe it is, or maybe you just come alive with it. I mean, I like playing in the dirt. I like eating food that I've grown. I like butchering. I'm starting to learn to like hunting again. I did so much hunting when I was younger for sustenance, because we needed the meat, that it turned me off to it for a long while. I've got nothing against hunters. Just for me, you know, frankly, when somebody's like, yeah, you know, I've killed 4 bucks, I'm like, you know, I used to, you know, that might have been in a month when I was growing up. I've killed a lot of deer, and not all of them had tags on them, if you know what I mean. But we had to do what we had to do to eat growing up. And so, but I'm starting to learn to hunt again, to like hunting again. And really, hunting is sitting in the woods and being quiet and watching the animals move. Yeah, but I think it's important that you know that you enjoy the lifestyle before you make a significant financial investment into the lifestyle. So perhaps consider starting there. The next thing, assuming that you find yourself enjoying this lifestyle, is reverse engineering what your ideal situation looks like. Okay, you're homesteading now. How do you want to homestead? What do you want to accomplish? And you need to be as specific with your goals as possible. For example, I want to live happily ever after. Hogwash, not specific enough. I want to live happily ever after with a wife and kids. What does your wife look like? How tall is she? What color are her eyes? What color is her hair? What skills does she possess? What is the content of her character? How many kids? How many boys? How many girls? Right? And so specifics matter. If you know the details of what it is that you're trying to achieve, you have a much better chance of achieving it. You have a clearer picture, and the clearer your picture is of the target, the better chance you have of actually hitting the target. So I would think about, seriously, what do you want this homestead to be? Is it a hobby farm? Do you have the cash flow? Do you have the revenue to support a bunch of unproductive animals? Glorified pets, because a lot of homesteads are filled with glorified pets or unproductive animals, meaning that, you know, we have a cow, but we don't milk her, and we will never milk her, and we'll never eat her. It's like, okay, that thing's drinking up to 40 gallons of water a day and eating, you know, 70 pounds of grass a day. I'd love it if she was part of the food chain, not part of the family. Says me, right? But if you have the capacity to carry pet chickens and, you know, pet rabbits and pet whatever else, these are my world famous whatever, you know, show goats. Okay, to me, that's a waste of time and money. But on a hobby farm, hey man, that's what it's all about, right? So, do you want a hobby farm, or do you want to self-sustain? And if you're self-sustaining, what are you self-sustaining? How many people for how long? You know, and so those are two different avenues to go with. And self-sustaining, don't get me wrong, they both take money up front. You have to invest in the infrastructure, and it takes an influx of energy, whether that's time or money or both, generally both, to get the machine of the homestead spun up and running. It's like anything else. Like when you start a 3-phase motor, okay? Let's say you got a giant 25 horse 3-phase electric motor. Okay, that thing's pulling 100 amps when it starts turning. But once it's turning, it's only pulling 35, 40 amps. Okay? So it takes a lot more energy to get it moving than it does to keep it moving. Same thing with the vehicle. Think about when you hop in your car. You're using a lot more fuel to get your car moving than you are to keep it moving, right? You're just barely touching the gas once it's moving. You've got that momentum. But in order to get that momentum, you have to put a lot of energy into it on the front end to get it moving. So for me, if you're going to put that much time and energy into something, I'd rather it not be a hobby farm. Get something back out of it. And hobbyists would say, well, we have our pride of ownership and the joy that these lovely runner ducks bring us. And I'm like, cool, put them in the freezer, man. Whatever. So once you know that you like homesteading and you have an idea of why you're homesteading, where are you going to homestead? Again, specific as possible. Well, we really like Alaska. Have you ever been to Alaska? Can you deal with a 5-month growing season? How about mosquitoes the size of your face? Do you know anybody? Do you know how to hunt? Do you know how to fish? Because both of those things are vitally important in Alaska. So forth, so on, right? The more obscure your vision is, the less likely it is that you will achieve it, or the less likely that you'll find fulfillment and joy and success in the achieving of it. So you really want to be specific. Again, we like homesteading. We want to have a self-sustaining homestead, and we want to do it here, wherever that is. Eastern Oklahoma, Western Arkansas, Southern Missouri, Idaho, Tennessee. I've had a lot of inquiries about Tennessee lately. I find that interesting because I don't believe in coincidence, but I've had a lot of people asking about Tennessee lately. So don't know what's going on there. But then it becomes where? And then again, what are you trying to do? Well, we want to raise sheep. Okay. Well, pasture is better than woods for sheep. So where are you going to get pasture? What kind of pasture do you need? Is little blue stem grass going to be good for your sheep or not good for your sheep? Well, if you cut it in the spring, it is, but not in the fall, because it goes from 15% crude fiber to 4%, and that's a problem for meat, goats, and sheep, so forth and so on. So I think a lot of it's about doing the research to put yourself in a good position. But here's the catch. Don't get overwhelmed with data, right? This is kind of the dichotomy. Analysis by paralysis versus just moving blindly. I think when you're about like 80% certain, for me, when it's about 80% certain, that seems to be the point of diminishing returns on increased intel. For me, if it's a life-threatening situation, I want all the intel I can get. But you have to understand that as you're spending time and resources gathering that intel, your window of opportunity is closing. One of the key things that the vast majority of successful people have in common is time to implementation. They don't rush forward blindly, but they don't sit around and wait for everything to be perfect either, because perfect is a fallacy. There is no perfect. There's just better times and worse times. There's just better deals and worse deals. But there is no perfect, and sitting around and being an ideologue waiting for something to be ideal you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. So I think when you've gathered about, for me, it seems like the tipping point, the point of diminishing returns is about 80%. When I'm 80% confident, I go. That means there's a 20% chance or greater, depending on how you play the numbers, that I could fail. Okay. There's an 80% chance I could win. Man, I'll take that. That's 4-to-1 odds. That's pretty good. It's better than walking into the casino, right? That's better than playing the lotto for sure. So if I've got an 8 out of 10 chance of being successful at something, I'm going. I'm not trying to make it a 9 out of 10 or a 9.5 out of 10 or a 9.9 out of 10. unless there are lives on the line. And one could argue, well, with this homestead thing, there are. But you're missing the point here. Speed to implementation. Get on property and start learning. Once you know that you like it and you know how you want to do it and you figured out where you want to do it, get on property and start learning your specific things that you need to know for your area. How much rainfall do we have? What's the wind like? Where is the sun at this time of day? What's the best place to look for wild edibles around here? And in this hedgerow, are these mulberries or blackberries? And what is this thing? And blah, 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 blah. You're selling yourself short by not getting on property at that point. That window of opportunity is closing because you are past the point of diminishing returns on gathering intel. And so that's kind of a brief aside on paralysis by analysis and how I combat it. Man, if I get to 80%, I'm good. I'm going. So where to start with homesteading? I think that's a couple, 3 good jumping off points. Do you even like to homestead? If the answer is I don't know, I would not jump feet first into a lifestyle that you're unsure about. So let your fingers do some walking on the Google machine and figure out where it is that you can go to try it on for size for a little while to determine, yes, we love this, no, we hate this, or eh. And really for me, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. If you don't wake up in the morning and go, hell yeah, love my life, thank you, yeah, that I get to do this homesteading thing is awesome, then it's a no. Because sooner or later, if you don't love it, it's gonna be a no. And think about all the time and energy just for a no. So figure out if you really like doing it. Next, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for fun, or are you doing it to self-sustain, or is this going to be your hobby in your free time after you retire, and you're going to start setting up the place now 5 years before you retire so you can step into that hobby when the opportunity presents itself, so forth and so on, right? Why are you homesteading? Then where are you homesteading? Where is the best environment, price-wise, cost of land-wise, agriculturally speaking, that convenience, We have many a client that has special considerations. A lot of them are people in their family that have certain medical needs. So they want to be far enough away from the city that the zombies don't show up and rape their dog and eat their kids, but close enough to the city that if they need specific medical attention, they can get it. Well, that's a fine line to tread. One of the best ways to do that is bust out a map, bust out a compass, and I don't mean a compass like this, I mean a compass like this, and start drawing circles on a map. I want to be within 50 miles of a hospital, okay? And I want to be more than 100 miles away from a nuclear plant, okay? And I want to have ample water, okay? And good schools, okay? And you'll find out pretty quick that it's tough to find a unicorn, okay? Again, get to 80%. Well, we really like this place. It's just we wanted an elevation over 1,500 feet, and this is only 1,490. It's like, yeah, you're splitting the hairs. Go, that's your place, right? And so that's pretty much what I got, man. I think that's enough of an earful to get you started on homesteading and where to start. Do you want to do it? And if you want to do it, how are you going to do it? And if you want to do it and you know how you're going to do it, where are you going to do it? And if you can answer those 3 questions honestly, and they're all in the affirmative, and you know what you're doing from there, man, you're on the fast track. And don't sit around and wait for things to be perfect, because they never are. There's just a better time and a worse time with all things in life. Shalom.